Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Bls038 Storytime with Aaron Frost. Aaron,
How's it
good to have
going?
you here. Good,
Yeah,
man.
good to be here, man. It's been a long time no see, so I'm excited to be on a live stream with you.
Likewise. And you're having the premiere of the new interview sessions that I'm planning to do.
Ooh,
Yep.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, so it
that's
used to
good.
be all show and tell. So that was the previous stuff. So live coding, within 10 minutes, we'd have a code on screen. And I did a poll on Twitter. People like to see interviewing stuff. And I was
Oh,
always eager to ask you a bunch of questions.
oh, cool. Good.
So I figured let's do this.
Yeah, good. That'll be fun. I'm excited. There's a lot to talk about. When you zoom in and look at Angulars, man, we've been here for years, and
Yeah.
there's so much history here. So yeah, I'm excited to be here to talk.
Awesome. Very cool. Today we'll also have a few people from the Kin community. I recently joined Kin as a senior technical advisor there, and they've been eager for me to doing some Kin content. But first today, Angular and Aaron. So people from the Kin community, watch out. This is one of the people from the community. So awesome. Yeah. I think, as you said, enough things to talk. I had the banner with an Ngconf, with a HeroDevs, with a Scully, and I thought if I do I could add some more stuff. But I thought this might be a very nice way to go.
Yeah.
First and foremost, tell me a little bit about yourself. I think you're in Utah, right, at this moment?
I'm in Utah. Yeah. I'm a dad. I'm a family guy first and foremost.
Very good.
I've got 5 kids, which is more than anyone should have. But they're all my best friends. 2 girls and then 3 boys in that order. And they're all I'm really, really lucky. Some kids are hard. My kids are all pretty rad. I'm also a twin, so I have an identical twin. So there's actually another one of me running around in the world. He answers. If you call him Frosty, he'll answer. So yeah, there's 2 of us out here.
Can I be sure that this is the real Aaron, or I might not know?
He doesn't know code, so you could ask me something pretty advanced. Ask me some RX or something, and we'll see what happens. But
okay, we might do that at some point.
Yeah. So yeah. What else? I love fishing. Fishing is kind of my relaxing pastime. When my kids grow up and move out, that's where I'll spend a lot more of my time, is in my garden and doing some fishing. So yeah, that's a little bit about me as a person. So I worked in tech. I started, and maybe we'll get a little more into this. I started in QA, and made my way into development, and so I've been doing Angular since 2012ish.
There you go.
And that's starting with AngularJS, and then the new Angular X. I think I got in sometime around 5. Was like my first adventure in. So yeah, I've been doing the new Angular for quite a while too. So yeah,
that's awesome.
That's a bit about me.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely. And you're originally from Utah, or have you?
Yep.
Yeah, born and raised.
Born and raised. For 2 years, I lived in Mexico. When I turned 19, I went to Mexico for 2 years. So I did live in another country for a while, but I'm back in Utah. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I know you can indeed speak Spanish. We should have to switch. Let's not do it for the people here, but
yeah. You speak at least 3 languages, right?
Yeah, at least. And
so how many languages you speak? You speak Dutch.
Correct.
You speak English. You speak Spanish. What else do you speak?
Well, I speak German as well. Ich kann ja auch Deutsch reden, weil ich das nicht viel übe. I don't practice a lot, so I can bluff myself into it. I can understand like 80%. But currently, after having lived in Spanish-speaking countries for years, I tend to switch everything that's not Dutch or English. I switch it to Spanish. So if I talk to some German people, I would always mix in, and at some it's like como and que, and well, you know how it goes.
Right.
So yeah, but I guess it's a bit cheating because everybody in the Netherlands knows English, and it's super easy for us because it's super similar. And there's hardly any Dutch culture like movies or music. So when I was a little kid, I used to listen to Michael Jackson and George Michael.
Me too.
I'm like
Me too.
80s child.
Yeah.
And that's stuff, right? And I would phonetically sing along with all the songs, and then all of a sudden, when you're 14, you all of a sudden understand it. Like, hey, actually, I know this word. I now understand what Dirty Diana means, for instance, after singing it along, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of cheating, I think, for a Dutch. And then we lived like 15 kilometers. Not sure how many that is in like freedom units, but it's half an hour from the from the
freedom
German border.
units.
It's half an hour drive from the German border. My dad visited Germany a lot, so I picked up German as a kid, and that really helped. And I guess that really helps learning yet another language.
Yeah. I don't think it's cheating. Learning another language is super important, and a lot of people will never get a chance to. It opens you up to culture. I was raised in Utah. Utah is it's a lot like mayonnaise, to be totally honest. It's pretty plain, and everyone kind of looks the same and thinks the same and does the same.
All right.
So moving to another country and learning another language opened me up, and it made me learn to love people that I wasn't taught to love as a kid. And so it opened me up to a new way of looking at the world, which was really, really valuable. I would never, ever want to give up that part of my life. It was really, really valuable to learn that lesson. So
that's awesome, man. Is it something you see yourself motivating your kids doing the same?
Oh yeah, my wife's from northern Mexico. All my kids speak Spanish. We start them in a bilingual school, so they all go to elementary school in English and Spanish. But the first language we teach them is Spanish.
There you go. Yeah.
And so we try our best. Obviously, they're not going to speak perfect because they live in an English first culture, but we're trying our best.
That's very cool. I think it's one of the biggest gifts you can give if you're from different countries. Best thing you can give your gift is 2 languages.
It really is a huge gift.
Yeah.
So I totally agree.
Man. I didn't know your wife was from there, but
yeah.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And where in Mexico were you?
I was in a place called Tampico, which is right on the Gulf Coast, right underneath Texas.
Right.
And I was kind of all over those regions. There's a big mountainous region in Mexico called the Huasteca. And I lived a lot in those mountainous regions back in the middle of nowhere. I learned to speak a little bit of dialect when I lived there. And I learned to eat the most amazing food. So it was I'd never give that part of my life up. I miss it incredibly.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I always dreamed about traveling. I started working when I was 19. Basically, the age that you moved out, I had no choice to work. I was dropout. And then when I got 35, I got the chance to work remote, and this is when I started exploring. So I kind of did what a lot of people do when they're younger. I did it right now, and I don't have any kids, so I could just freely go without addressing it with anybody, without talking about it. And it's also something I would never give up, and it really, really made me a different person. Way more humble, and way more open to things. As you said, learn to love people that don't look like you, that don't have the same privileges. I think coming from US or the Netherlands, from a privilege standpoint, is pretty comparable. Basically, never have to worry about eating or drinking water or having some place to sleep. So all these basics are set, and definitely a huge eye opener for me as well. And still thankful for this having had this opportunity
every day. I agree.
Yeah, awesome, man. So you already kind of alluded to it. You got into tech first as a QA person. Is that the first thing you did after like your, let's say, high school, university?
No, so I moved to Mexico for a few years. It was for a church mission. When I came home, I did some tech support for Microsoft. I tried to do mortgages for a little bit. And ultimately, I wasn't ready in life yet. Like, I wasn't ready to focus. And so I decided to go back to get a job that would let me go to school. And then my daughter was born, and then something clicked in my head. Like, I got to get serious. Like, I have a daughter. And that was, I think, the motivation I was missing in life, because that was where there's a pretty much like a line in my history from like irresponsible to when me being irresponsible started. I'm not fully responsible yet, but like you can see when it started in time. And I got a job in a tech support, and I was the dumbest guy on the team. They all had accounting certificates, and I just got lucky that I passed the test. I worked really hard to pass it, but I did. But on top of accounting, there was one skill that we all needed to learn, and that was SQL. And I didn't know what that was, but I learned it on the job, and pretty quick I realized, hey, SQL, it can solve a 1 hour problem in like 30 seconds. If you just write it right. So I just learned how to write it, and they were like, hey, you got some skill, bro. Why don't you go do QA? And so I went into QA, and then that was kind of the beginning of my starting in SQL and QA. That was the beginning of my life in tech. That was kind of how I got in.
That's awesome. So rolled in it, and so no educational background towards that at all.
Yeah, up to that point, I got the accounting job. I took a half a semester of accounting and dropped it. But yeah, no school. And then once I was in Q, I did go to school, and I was a college dropout, but I got enough out of college to learn how to teach myself. And then that was when I was like, I can't go to school. I can't afford to go to school anymore, because I can learn so much faster on my own. So I stopped going to college, and I started teaching myself. And that was, and it was, it was kind of at that time when jQuery was coming out, and no one knew what JavaScript was still like the bad language. We don't like JavaScript. It's too hard. You have to make too many ifs for all the different browsers, and jQuery was just coming out, and I didn't even want to, but I learned it. And immediately everyone treated me like I was a genius. Like, I worked at a big organization with like 500 developers, and I wasn't a good developer, but they were like, you know JavaScript? I was like, yeah, of course, it's like the easiest language. Like, what do you mean I know JavaScript? Like, we all kind of know JavaScript. And they were like, no, we hate JavaScript. I was like, no, I don't hate it. I actually like it. And so they just kind of put me in a box of, you're the JavaScript guy. So really quickly, like back in 2010, think about 2010, the JavaScript thing was just starting to really take off, right?
Yeah.
And I got to work on some phone gap projects, and I got to build native mobile hybrid apps back in 2011. Right. And I really got some really cool experiences early on. And so I just got lucky that I was surrounded by people that hated JavaScript, and so they just let me kind of specialize in it. It was really nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think back in that time, I was around as a developer as well. I started development work in 2009 professionally. That was the year that Nodejs got released. And I would not think that I would doing JavaScript all day. Well, right now it's TypeScript, but let's assume for sake of things that's pretty much the same. I would not have guessed it. I would have said you're totally crazy. But yeah, here we are.
I think when Node came out, I thought, this is cool, but if you had told me this is going to be in every company in America, I'd be like, nah, like it's not. Whether you're having a server or you just have run dev tools, Node's in everything. There's no one that doesn't use Node. Everyone uses Node. And so I never saw the success of Node coming. Like when it was announced, I had no idea it was going to be what it is today. It's been so awesome.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think you also then can remember that Node.js got stuck on, I think it was like version 0.10 or something, and it was basically without any maintenance anymore. And then all of a sudden, and I was actually already eyeballing like, I should move to Go or I should move to something fancy. But still, it's still my go-to. And definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Node changed JavaScript for the better. It did.
Sure.
No one can say it didn't. I think the next thing that came along that changed JavaScript as much was TypeScript, probably for me. Like
Sure.
TypeScript took it all to the next level. So it made it so much easier.
And I think if we go back from Node, one step before was actually the Chrome, the V8 engine, which enabled Node to exist. I think having Google building their browser, I know I was super excited. I was fairly against Microsoft at the time. I'm an open source boy. I've always been like Linux, and yeah, Microsoft was the bad enemy. And then somebody putting weight like Google against Microsoft. We had Firefox, but this was like huge. And how fast they managed to make JavaScript, that was really a game changer, which then led to Node, which then led to what we just discussed. So definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely interesting. And now, and something that really recently happened in a company that we all know from the Angular community, StackBlitz, where they actually managed to run Node back in the browser, back where it belongs. And I still have to invite Dominic to come on here and tell me the ins and outs. Hopefully, a show and tell where he can walk me through the code.
Yeah, that would be a good interview with Dominic.
I'll put it on the list. I'll put it on the list. If they let me show the code, if they let me peek in, I'd love them to open the box of Aurora and look into it, man.
I bet they would.
Yeah, probably. So, Dom, if you're watching, you're gonna get invited soon, boy.
You're on notice, Dom.
Yep, definitely on my radar. And I actually was doing some consulting or freelancing with the StackBlitz folks 2 years back, and Eric had this crazy idea. Eric, you know Eric, and he had the crazy idea, and he was saying it out loud until Dominic said, "I'm going to give it a go." And 2 years ago, it sounded crazy, but I was
still sounds crazy. But they did it finally.
It is crazy, but they did it, and I was like, in some part of me was super proud, like they did it, like these guys did it, and I was pushing like, if you want to do this, you probably go the container route, and which I think also still a valid route to go, like do containers and make them accessible by the web. But team on a mission. And,
during that whole StackBlitz journey, there was a few months before they got funding where they needed to let the guys do something else for a few months. So I actually got lucky enough that we got to hire Dominic for a few months, and so that was really, really cool that we got to work with someone as talented as him, and he is just wicked smart. So
that's awesome.
We got lucky.
It's a great team, and actually, Ajita here says StackBlitz web containers just revolutionary. I think it's the word for it, and I totally agree.
Yeah,
it's pretty much that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Very cool. Quickly going to say hi to a few other people in the chat while we move on. We have Umar here. Hey there. Umair, Rafa, and Boy, one of the big names in the kin community, doing a lot of graphical work, and my man Chow here, which is resident on the show. Chow has been on like I don't know, 20% of all my episodes.
Chow's a new GDE, right? He's a new Angular GDE, true?
Yep, he's been like a month ago. He became 2 months ago. He became a dad, and then soon after a GDE. So a lot of new things for Chow going on.
Big changes. That's cool.
Yeah. So I think he should apply for Ngconf, and this brings us just right to the next topic. I think it's fair to say a lot of people know you from Ngconf. Like you're one of the two faces behind it. And, can you tell us a little bit about the origin story, how it came to be?
Yeah.
How do you get from a guy in Utah to running the Angular conference? Because all of them have Ngconf something.
Yeah.
But you don't.
Yeah, it's really it's something I've tried to reproduce but I can't. So there's it's not without an element of luck mixed with preparedness, you know. But I've been equally as prepared and haven't had the luck, and it just doesn't happen. Right. So there's a duality there of luck and preparedness. But so I started writing a book, and it was called ES6 Field Guide, and it was for people to learn ES6. I was talking to people like Brendan Ike. I was talking to people like Dave Herman. I was talking to some of the Googlers, a lot of the people that were Alan Wurzbrock, the people from the TC39. You know, that they were just coming out of that early 2010 Google Chrome helping unstop the roadblock on JavaScript innovation. And ES6, we all heard about it. ES Next, ES6. We didn't know what it was called even back then. ES 2015, it was later named, but none of us. It was just a name for so many people. But I was in there writing a book with them, and I learned a lot. I was giving a lot of talks. I was meeting the people. I did a podcast one time for like 2 hours with Brandon Ike, and he just told us the origin. Anyway, I was getting some momentum, and a company here was like, hey, why don't you come and be one of our architects? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And at that company, 5 of us engineers came together who we didn't know we were about to change some things for the Angular community, but we did. So we were all 5 on a team, and the 5 people are, one of them's name is Merrick Christensen, who's still a really extremely talented developer. You have Dave Geddes, also extremely talented developer / speaker. You've got Kip Lawrence, who's just one of the nicest people you could hope to meet, and I, who are the faces that people normally associate with Ngconf.
Yep.
And we were at work, and Kip said, hey, we should go to an all Angular conference. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And so we looked, and there wasn't any. And we were like, for me, I was like, all right, back to work. But Kip was like, hey, what if we made an Angular conference? And I thought, that sounds like a bad idea. I don't want to do it. And he was like, no, think about it. We could do one here in Utah and blah, blah, blah. He's like, think about it. Eggheads here in Utah, which was like the first place everyone was learning Angular. Yeah. Plural sites from Utah, which is the other site everyone was learning Angular from. A lot of the other people who are doing blogging and teaching and speaking about Angular are from Utah. I was like, that's true. I mean, we are helping pioneer this thing. I was like, all right. I was like, listen, in 3 weeks, I'm going to Google, and there's an open office, an office hours with the Angular team. I'll ask them if they'll come. And if they'll send 1 or 2 people from their team to our conference, I say we do it. And let's try it. So I went out there and I met Brad. And have you met Brad before, Beeman?
Yes, I have in NG Atlanta.
Yeah. He's way taller than me, but he's just, one of the nicest guys you could meet. Yeah. And Igor was there and Mishka was there. And I walked up, I was excited, and I was like, hey, I'm friends with John Lindquist and Dave Geddes and all these names. And I was like, we want to do a conference. Like, we want to do a conference in Utah, Ngconf. What do you think? Do you think you could send a person or 2? An all Angular conference? They're like, oh, yeah, we'll send the whole team.
There you go.
I was like, wait, you're gonna send the whole team? He's like, yeah, the whole team. I was like, oh, awesome, let's do it. And so I flew back to Utah, and I was like, okay, guys, it's official. Yeah. We're doing Ngconf, and at that point, you don't know what's about to happen. There was still a lot of luck needed, but I'll say the biggest thing we did was we started planning as a small community event. Right, we were going to charge $30, $40 a person. It was going to be extremely low budget, and it was going to be something that looked like a community event.
Meetup style.
But extremely like a local conference or a meetup conference, right? Totally. Yeah. But Joe came to the table one day and said, wait, what if we do an enterprise conference and we charge like his enterprise, and with that money, we make it the coolest possible event, but we also live stream it to the whole world for free. And I was like, ooh, that changes our reach. That dramatically changes our reach. I was like, okay, all right. So we kind of started thinking about it a little bit differently. And pretty quickly we were like, yeah. That's what we need to do. we need to make this like a really, really fun, cool event. And we need to go to the next level and get a nice venue. So we totally changed, and we turned it into this big event because we wanted to, the goal was, hey, let's give this away to everyone for free. And COVID's totally killed that. COVID's made the entire conference industry tough. But once it's over, we'll be back to just broadcasting as normal. So yeah, but that's kind of the origin. And then we just did our 8th year, and it continues to change every single year. And there's been a lot of learning along the way. I think the biggest thing that we've learned, if there was one thing that I could say I learned, it would be how to make a safe event.
There you go.
That's the most important thing. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
Making somewhere safe. That's probably the most important thing I've learned.
Interesting. Love the topic you're touching on. And you mean safe as in the reason why you need a code of conduct, for instance?
Yeah. The code of conduct is big. It's so important, dude. Like, I mean, you look at our tech industry and you're like, man, so many bad actors. And when you don't put a code of conduct on top of it, you don't give everyone a framework, then there's no way to say, you broke the rules, because there's no rule.
Yeah.
So the code of conduct is to say, here's our framework for how we talk to each other. And if you talk outside of this framework, potentially that's a violation. So be careful. And it just changes things.
Yeah.
And so that has probably been the most important. But it's not just the code of conduct. It's not just the code of conduct, but because there's, how do you get a lineup that's not just a bunch of white men?
Sure.
How do you do that? Well, there's some ways that are easy, but not the right way. And then there's some really, really concerted effort ways to make sure that the speakers represent the community. And if you're not trying, it's not possible to attain acceptance, inclusion, and stuff like that. But if you focus, and I mean really focus, you can make it safe for everyone speaking and for everyone watching and for everyone who's participating at the event as well. So that's what I mean by safe.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. First time I was at a physical conference was well, I've been in a lot of tech conferences before, but it was all like DevOps stuff. First development conference where this was all pretty important. I kind of thought it was BS, and this is my initial thought. And I think a lot of developers, probably a lot of people, when something new and it doesn't really apply to you, you're initially like, well, I don't bother. Until the moment that it dawned to me that I don't have to bother about these things because I'm tall, white guy.
Yeah.
Able-bodied, how do you say, right? I'm not in the minority of all means. And that took a little bit of time and a bit of my ego to just accept that these things are kind of important. And I must say, grew on me a lot. And up to the extent that we're now running the Angular Discord. My buddy Steve and I started this 8 months ago. We just reached 10,000 members, which is great by itself.
Huge success.
Huge success. And it's really a nice place to be. And
I remember when you hit 1,000. I remember when you got that 1,000. That was so cool. And now you're at 10.
And now we got 10, and we'll get 20. And one of the reasons it's a nice place to be is because we have a code of conduct in place, and we have some place to point at where it's like, hey, dude, or do that. This is not going to happen, and we just don't allow it. And we have a clear structure on how we're going to tell it to you and how far you can go. And it was interesting that it shifted me, and this is a multi-year process, and having traveled, etc. But it shifted me from being like, why do we need this? And just go ahead, give me the tech, keep these things out of tech, to somebody who's now actually actively avoiding communities that don't have a code of conduct. And if I go somewhere and the first thing they have is freedom of speech and everything should be said, I'm very, very cautious if this is the place where I want to be. Because freedom of speech, sure, up until you get to freedom of being an asshole, and then it's like, nope, I don't want to be there.
Well, I'm big on freedom of speech. I'm not big on freedom of consequences, though. Like, I want people to be able to speak and say what they mean, and but I want people to be safe and protected from what people speak and say and they mean, because sometimes what we say hurts people, and I want them to be safe, and I want you to have consequences, or me to have consequences. Certainly, I've walked straight into the code of conduct multiple times, and I've been violating it, and I have to call myself on it. And it's, if you can't call yourself on it, why even have it? If you're going to give yourself a pass, why even have it? Like, if you're just going to be a hypocrite. So code of conducts are very difficult. And they help keep you from hurting people. And even though we have it, people still get hurt.
Sure. Yeah.
People still get hurt. You'll remember a few years ago at Ngconf, I had a talk that I did not mean to hurt, but I hurt a lot of people. And that's just one example of why you need a code of conduct, because sometimes you're not trying to hurt people and you do.
Yeah.
Worse is when you are trying to hurt people and you do. And the code of conduct's help for all of that. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I actually forgot about the event you allude on here. I also think owning it and being honest, being true to people that are calling you out for it, just accepting that you did it and apologize already makes a lot of things good, because this is learning moment for you, moment of appreciation for other people. So yeah. Interesting. So that was basically the origin story, and also a lot of lessons learned, which I'm sure people think is super interesting. I really think it's interesting. I've been on the sidelines of organizing here Ngconf Colombia 3 years ago. It was 2018. 2020 just skips in my head.
Right.
And I had a sneak peek. Juan Herrera was the main organizer at that point, and I had a sneak peek what he had to do. And boy, this is a lot of work, and a lot of admiration for people that do it all.
I'm gonna move my mic away. People are saying it's too loud, so I'm gonna back my mic off a little bit. Hopefully that helps. Yeah. When you have the whole Angular team coming to your event, it's really, really stressful. And Ngconf has a lot of stress that comes from the integration and the responsibility to represent Google well. And so that's probably been one of the hardest pieces. Is I think on other conferences I've done, if I mess up, Google isn't going to call me 5 minutes later. But with Ngconf, if I make a mistake, my phone's going to ring, and it's going to be a big deal. So there's a lot of stress being a leader, but there's a lot of stress being a leader that the Angular team has your phone number, and they're going to make sure that you fix things. So it's been a lot. That first year of Ngconf, just to kind of add some more to the origin, we didn't really know. Remember, we said we want to do that big enterprise event?
Yeah.
The people who sold our tickets, we used a site called Eventbrite. Have you heard of Eventbrite?
Sure. Yeah. I probably bought a few tickets there.
Yeah. So Eventbrite wouldn't give us the money from the ticket sales until after the event. And we had to put deposits on the hotel, and we had to put deposits on the money, and we had to pay for flights for the speakers, and we had to pay for the swag, hundreds of thousands of dollars that we had to come up with somehow. And so we ended up all working on getting mortgages against our house. And imagine being my wife, and I tell my wife, hey, I'm gonna do an event. It's just gonna be fun. And then a few months later, like, hey, we got to get a mortgage on the house. And it was just a lot. It really, really scary, really, really quick. We ended up risking a lot to do this event.
Yeah.
Luckily, it worked out, and we worked really, really hard. And maybe it's because of that we worked so hard to make it great. Yeah. But and there's so many things we can look back at that first year about learning how to do an event.
And it magically aligned. And I bet your wife was like, hey, it was a meetup style community thing, local garage sale kind of. No. Was it already? Because I've never had the pleasure to go there. Actually, one time I won a discounted ticket, And I was at a startup, and they didn't let me go because I didn't have time. And I was like, I'll take my own time, I'll pay it, and they didn't let me go, and it was against. And 2 weeks later, I resigned. Was
Yeah.
definitely highly influential, this decision, that somebody's going to decide not to be in this Ngconf. Because normally it was like, yeah, tickets are not cheap if you're an independent developer. I was working with the startup, but it was like contracting, so they didn't pay my tickets. So I had to come up with
Right.
it myself, and the hotel and everything. And they didn't let me go. And I was like, oh, okay. So this year I was there, but it was like on the same chairs as it was right now. But I really hope to be there once. It seems like you guys have a very fancy venue where it's being hosted.
Yeah. So 2022 will probably be our last year in Salt Lake City.
There you go.
2023. So you should come for 2022 because we're going to pull out all the stops. So, come get your skiing on, come do your hikes in the Red Rock Canyons, come out and enjoy 2022 because 2023, we're probably going to take it on the road and go down to San Diego. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I was about to ask things about future roadmap. So this is kind of hitting that nail. Why San Diego?
The conference space has evolved a lot in the last 8 years. Sure. A lot of developers now, they pick their conference according to where they want to go on a mini vacation. So a lot of engineers, they'll be like, hey, there's a really good event in Salt Lake City, and then there's a boring event in Florida. So I'm gonna go to the boring event. Yeah. And why not do both? I'll be honest. Utah, if you say Utah's amazing.
Yeah.
Did I freeze or did you freeze? One of us froze.
I think it's freezing a bit your screen from looking at YouTube, or maybe we're both. Let's. I'm gonna open a ping just to know.
Yeah, let me go to fast.com. See what's going on here.
Yeah, let's take a short little interlude. At least people say that the mic is better, and that's good.
Okay.
And I think I still hear you right, but But interesting.
On YouTube. Oh, hey, you're back. You're moving again.
It's back.
Yeah. You're back. You're moving. So I think we're back.
Yeah, looks like it.
Utah's amazing. If you go outside of Salt Lake and you go into the mountains, it's I don't know, man. There might not be a more beautiful place. It's insane. Yeah. But it's time to try different options. So we're gonna try San Diego. San Diego's amazing. San Diego's amazing.
Well, in fact, if I were to choose, I've been to San Diego twice, and so I was definitely going to choose. I tried to tick all the states in the U.S. and I probably have more states already than the average U.S. citizen. That's what they keep telling me. Oh, you've been in more places than I, right? And but still, I'm gonna go to like 50, whatever, whoever's counting you're gonna use. But so Utah is definitely on the list, and I'm definitely gonna trying to make it work for 2022.
And, for skiing, I don't know, man. There's not a better place to go skiing than Utah. Our mountains are insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Preston Lamb is also from Utah, is it right?
Preston's from Utah, definitely. Eric Slack is from Utah. Joe's from Utah. Florida, Tim in the comments is saying, let's go to Florida.
Tim Howard.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Tim.
Florida sounds fun, though.
I've been in Florida as well. And honestly, with all due respect, Tim, when I got to Florida, I found it kind of boring because I'm from a flat country. I'm from the flattest country on earth. And then I got to Florida. It's like, this is just more flatness. I want to see mountains. Now, the Everglades were stunning. And that's a whole different ballpark. And it was my first time in the US. It was like 1999, actually New Year's. So I was a kid, 19 years old. And I was going out of the airport, Orlando Airport. and I saw all these huge cars. Like now you have more sedans, but back in the late 90s, it was all like these huge pickups and the whatever Fords and whatever, all that just. I was like, dude, it's just like in the movies. But then with light, like on daytime, it's like just this pretty boring. It's just like from a nature point of view, and everything was new to my eyes. Like the old buildings are new, you can just replicate it. And I come from a country where there's like, it's like this building is like 200 years old.
Right.
But
I've been there. I remember being in Amsterdam, being in buildings that are older than the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, dude, this building's older than my country. This is cool. I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah, and this is exactly that thing. And the church in the village where my parents live, it's like from 1500 or something. It's like things there for ages. And but it definitely grew on me, and I really like the idea. And I actually might go there in a month to get my vaccine, because you guys now have things set up finally. And here in Colombia, I'm like latest on any list. If I'm on a list already, I'm just a gringo here. So I think I might be. So Tim, watch out. I'll be around. And so awesome.
That's
yeah.
funny.
So 2022 is gonna be there, and we just should hang out over there.
Come, dude. We'll have fun. Be here. Enjoy it. It'll be a blast. I promise. I'll make it fun.
Yeah. No, I totally hear that. I think it's definitely the conference. As I said, I think it's a bit of a reference for others, only by name, just naming it after. And I hope you have a lot more years of that to come, because it's just it's an amazing thing.
Yeah, we've always tried to help, like with Ngconf Colombia. We've always tried to help.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember her name. What's the name? The main lady. Andrea, she reached out to me. Adriana, that's who it is. Yes. Adriana. Yep. She said, "Hey, I wanna do Ngconf Colombia. Can I use the name Ngconf?" I was like, "It's not my name." Like, yeah. She's like, "Can I use your logo?" I'm like, "I made it so that you could use it. We open sourced it on purpose. So yeah, use it." People have asked us about how do we do talk selection, how do we do workshops. We've always tried to be as transparent as we possibly can. We want people to have local meetups. We want people to have a successful community, an Angular community where they're at. So, and then we don't just help Angular conferences. Like a lot of people are like, "Hey, we want to do a React conf. Cool, let's talk about it. Let us help you." There's other tech conferences even recently that have emailed me and said, "Hey, what are you doing for workshops during the pandemic?" And so we're giving some help there. And if anyone's listening who wants help doing a conference, just let us know. Open books. We'll help you out however we can.
Aaron Frost on Twitter. Go hit him up. Yeah. DM's open, I assume.
DMs are open, yep.
Yeah, very cool. So with regards to that, you're also one of the people that just follows people back. And when you're a noob dev in the community, when somebody like you follows you back, it's like, whoa, I got seen, right? And this is just cool. And I remember that. I like, the dude doesn't even know me, and he follows back. And it's a great way to know community, get to know people who are there.
Yeah.
And on another note, helping things. You probably remember Ngconf 2019 when Melina, a Colombian girl, came to do a lightning talk, 5-minute talk about how tech communities changed her life. And she mentioned something about an effort that I happen to have started here, Code Your Future Colombia was the name at that point. And she gets sat on the table. So there were talks on the table next to stage. And I think either you or Joe asked, like, "Hey, and do you need any sponsors?" And she said, "Yes." And the Ngconf team, the guests there, managed to raise 10K in an evening.
Yeah.
And this has changed lives in Colombia. One-on-one.
Good.
And this is it's awesome. And I'm still super thankful for this to have happened. It's amazing that I can share it in public, or at least somewhat public right now. And these things are amazing.
Let me tell you that story from my point of view. So we're at the conference. Melina gave her talk, and have you ever been at a tech conference and the speaker makes you cry? Have you ever had that happen?
Not really, but close. Yeah.
Okay. So Melina gets up and Melina gets me to cry. Okay. So I think a lot of us felt what she was saying, right? It was a very good talk. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
Joe in the back of the room, I'm trying to MC the event, so I'm too busy sometimes to share all that's in my heart. But Joe's in the back of the room, and Joe's like, "Hey, what if we donated to that?" So he comes up to me and says, "Hey, I set up this way for people to donate to Melina's thing. Go tell everyone on stage, and we got sponsors that'll match. We got sponsors that'll match if people pay."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, wow, you just did that in the last 5 minutes?" He's like, "Yeah, we just threw together." I was like, "Oh, okay." So that was a combination of Melina's good heart and Joe's good heart,
Yeah.
putting on a thing where the whole community could donate to what you guys are doing in Colombia. So yeah, that was a fun event, and those are the kind of things where you're like, I love doing events,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's hard parts of doing events, but those are some of the moments where you're like, I love this.
Amazing.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was actually on holiday at that moment in Israel with my dad and my brothers. We had like a men's holiday, one of a kind, and it was super nice. And I was dying to see this talk, and I wanted to see it live. And it was like, I don't know, 1 at night or something. But I was like, dudes, let's go check it, because this is one of my volunteers, but one of volunteers for my project. And I just love to hear what she said. It's just a 5 or 10 minute talk. And then after that happened, and I went to sleep, and the day after, I was like blown away. I was like, this cannot be happen. And you probably, as an organizer of things, you probably understand like X amount of money enables Y, right? For me, it was, all of a sudden we can buy 10 computers without having to blink an eye, without having to beg for anyone, without having to send an invoice. We just have these things, and it enables us to do a lot of things. And we actually still have a bit of this stash for
good.
the next group that's coming on. And
That's good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, dude, you're welcome. Thank you for doing it. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't have anything to donate to. So thank you.
That's awesome. The project now is called Bsoft Labs. It wasn't my ego that came up with the name, but one of the ex-students. There are now 3 ex-students in the core team. Melina is still part of the official team. Even she's registered as one of the board members. We're super flat structured, but she's really still my ambassador. And I was like, I don't want to have this thing without you being at least some part of it. She's super busy with professional things, but we're actually now fully independent, and it's nice. And I still have the dream of reaching out to other countries. As you know, a lot of Spanish-speaking countries, a lot of opportunities there for people, or at least a lot of people that could use an opportunity.
Definitely.
And we're set out to make some great stuff happening over the years.
Good.
So
good.
That's awesome. So one of the other things that I put in the in the banner was HeroDevs, and the logos there as well, HD, and yep, there you go. Can you tell a little bit about the origin story of that? I think we discussed it before. I can say I think this and that. We briefly talked about it. This is the direct effect of doing the community and doing our community things, doing Ngconf.
Yeah. It's kind of a combination of. One day I realized I know so many good developers. Like Ngconf is. I know you. I have so many. I'm lucky, privileged, cosmically selected. I don't know. I know a lot of people, and it's been nice because of Ngconf. And and I decided, hey, I think I'm done working for a boss. I'd like to try being an entrepreneur. Both of my brothers are entrepreneurs, and I thought, why don't I try it? And so HeroDevs is the culmination of just realizing, hey, some of the things I can do really well, and I'd like to do that for a lot of organizations, but also I'd like to try and grow a development company. So HeroDevs came from there. It's blossomed into right now something I didn't even see coming, which was XLTS. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, that's extended support for Legacy Angular.
Yeah.
Legacy Angular, there's no more support after December. And our teams, we just kind of came up with it as a way to try and find consulting business. Hey, what if we offer extended support? Maybe they'll also hire us to upgrade their app. That was the idea. It's pretty simple, right?
Sure.
Well, yeah, it's I thought I could do that part-time, but it's now more than a full-time job. I'm working more than I've ever worked. It got really, really busy really fast, and we haven't had time to scale up. So XLTS is also a direct result of everything we've done in the Angular community, which has been really, really fun. So HeroDevs, we've also consulted with Google, and we built projects for the Angular team. One of those was we started by building Scully. Steven reached out and said, hey, we need Jamstack, yo. Angular doesn't have it. I was like, cool. So he and I designed it on a napkin at an event in Arkansas, or hey, this is what it would be. And then he's like, hey, build it. I was like, well, I don't have time. So Google figured out a way to get some money and asked us to start Scully. So we started Scully. Since then, we've invested quite a bit of money into it, making it big and successful. And it works for a lot of big organizations. Every day there's another success story and another success story. So hopefully this year we can find some funding so that we can actually just focus solely, 3 or 4 engineers full time on Scully and really kind of take it to the next level. We want it to be what Angular Universal could be. We want it to be that by default, though. Universal can be if you're a genius, but out of the box, it's not. We want Scully to be that out of the box, and it's really, really close right now. Scully just got Universal Renderer into it, and so now we just have to add an Express engine or a .NET engine that allows it to render on demand, and it can be full SSR. So we're really, really close. So it's going to be really, really exciting. Imagine Universal that doesn't keep saying Windows undefined, that doesn't keep freaking out for thread safety not being there, global being polluted and stuff like that. So, hey, my kids are like making it crazy. Can I have like 30 seconds to go talk to my kids?
Sure.
And I'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to be right back.
Yeah. Perfect. And I'm going to use this interlude to talk a little bit about the folks here. And Andres Villanueva, very good to see you, man. One of the people behind Scully. And here at JitaOne, it's kind of a dream for me to attend Ngconf. Maybe in a few years, I should be able to save enough to actually attend one. Actually, at Jita, we've talked a few. We chatted a bit today. I actually think you should apply for a talk, and that might very well be selected. And that would be a dream come true, says Bojack. And here we have Bls038, another recent GDE. Bls038, congratulations, man. I haven't had the chance to talk to you yet on video, but that's super nice, super excited, and well deserved. I was just pointing out that Bls038 here from Dominicode just got GDE as well. We recently we talked about Chow on the show before. And, yeah, that's awesome. Also, well deserved. Guy with a mission, cranking out videos tirelessly, and super inspiring to see. I've actually been on his show as well. Yeah, we have Andres here talking about Scully.
Is his show called Dominicode?
Yep, that's his channel, Dominicode.
I think I've been on his show.
Yeah, might very well. Might very well. And yeah, I actually invited myself again, so I'm the kind of guy I invite myself if I think I got a chance.
Right.
Well, and yeah, most likely be there. And I'm actually gonna talk. And now we have a few kin people in the audience, so I might as well allude to it. I work for the Kin Foundation, and it's a digital currency, and it allows to participate in an in-app economy. And I built the web SDK for them. So I just wrapped up the web SDK, which means you can interact with the blockchain from your web browser. Nobody owns the keys. You own your keys, you own your crypto, and it works cross apps. It's lightning fast, and it's free to use. There's no fees like with other blockchains. So I'm super excited about it, and I really hope to get the opportunity to speak at a few conferences and basically open the mind a little bit, because there's a few things in the minds of people when they hear blockchains, like, oh, it's bad for the environment, or that's super difficult. And well, Kin is neither of those. So I really hope to change a few minds and open it up.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be applying for 2022 Ngconf. I already know what the topic is.
Good. Get ready. Start applying. Prepare your talk today.
Yeah.
I'll give you an idea. In the fall, we're doing Enterprise NG again, which is an all enterprise. It's an enterprise focused Angular conference.
There you go.
I don't think that most developers still understand how blockchain is going to change development. I feel confident I don't understand.
Right.
You could give a talk about blockchain for enterprise front end, like how, I don't know. You should submit to speak about it, because there's going to be a lot of enterprise there, and I don't understand the need for it yet, but I'm sure there is one.
Interesting. So, yeah, I think I think it's a fair point. And to be honest, I ignored it for quite a few years that I heard about it. And like from a monetary point of view, it's the stupidest thing I could have ever done, because like if I would I, and yeah, this is I didn't really see the need. I'm not the kind of guy that says like, oh, it's going to replace the entire industry. I think the US dollar and the euro and the peso here will be a long time before they're replaced by something fully digital.
And, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, it will be a long time before you actually pay everything with it. But I definitely think that there's a need. And I've been, as you have, looking at the internet, and I've been actually interacting with the internet already in the early 90s, and it was dial-up. And you had to dial up, and you had to make sure that your parents wouldn't pick up the phone to call my grandparents, because if they would drop the connection. And
right,
I was exploring this stuff, and I was building website, and everybody was like, dude, this is not going to catch on because nobody has it. And it was even in the early 20s, in the early 2000s, where it was like, email, I don't know, man. And a smartphone, I don't know, man. Why do you need a camera on your phone? Like, I went to all the stages because I was an early adopter, and I spent all my money on gadgets and all that stuff, and I'm a huge nerd. And I'm not going to say you were all wrong all the time, but it's similar kind of feedback you hear over and over again. And you start to see a pattern, and some people are interested and want to understand it, want to know it. Biggest majority is like, oh, I don't need it, or they just dismiss it for whatever reason. That's like, yeah, it's bad for the environment. Yeah, okay, so some of them, but other things are not bad for the environment, particularly.
Yeah,
and other blockchains. And so it's interesting, but because we briefly mentioned about a project, have you ever worked with it on development side, or not yet at all?
With blockchain? I haven't done anything with it. I haven't. I need to. I want to. Steven reached out to me from Chainlink. I'd love to go work with him on something, but I haven't done anything. I'm proper ignorant. I don't understand it yet.
Yeah, cool. Well,
unfortunately, I want to.
I'm going to be on Eric Slack's event, I think this month, and I'm going to be having a demo. And I'll make it so simple that you now know how to use it, but you still don't understand the underlying technology, which is exactly what I hope to bring to the table. Like, you don't need to understand it all to do it. And yeah.
Good. So we need.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I have a few last things that I would like to ask. It's been It's been a super interesting conversation. A great first interview here. We talked about code communities, Angular, which was the topic of it all.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what are things that fascinate you or motivate you?
Motivation is, it's entirely my family. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not motivated much by money. I get motivated by family, and I get motivated by um, when I. Can you hear me? Did I cut out there?
No, it looks like, yeah, you cut out there for a second.
Okay,
It was
sorry.
very thoughtful, but
Okay. I get motivated by family. I get motivated by what I think is fair. And
right.
when I was a kid, I had a lot of bullies, and that made me really. I get really bothered when I see something that's not fair because of bullies as a child. And so, between family and fairness, equality,
yeah.
I get really passionate about those two things. So, but fascinates. That's the first part of your question. What's something that fascinates you?
What's
Because
something
the second part was motivates. Well, fascination is space,
right,
science.
You're gonna go to Mars
physics.
if they let you.
I mean, if they let fat people go, maybe I'll try and sign up. But like I'm proper. Like, I'm trying to tell one of my sons, hey, I need you to get ready. He wants to be a scientist. I'm like, hey, let's focus on getting you ready to go work at NASA and maybe go to Mars. When they're like, you're smart, you could do this. And he's like, okay. It just fascinates me. You know, when I was younger, my mom's like, you might have Asperger's, because people with Asperger's really focus on space and sci-fi. I'm like, well, I might, because that stuff fascinates me. So yeah. Just looking out at the universe just fascinates me. The physics, the unknown, everything. So yeah, that's what fascinates me. The scale.
Do you think about whether we're alone or not? Is that something that occupies your brain at all, or has?
No. I wonder. I'd look at, for me, the 80 years that I'm going to live.
There you go.
It doesn't even register on a cosmic scale.
Sure.
Like, it's statistically insignificant.
Yeah.
And so life, does it even matter? Like, to me it does, but like, cosmically, do we matter? I think we do. And I think that there's a lot of accomplishment we can do to make a mark as a species, probably not as an individual, but definitely as a species, to leave a mark on and make things better. So yeah, it fascinates me.
I can totally agree. And also the insignificance. And for me, once I got really with peace with that idea, I also felt like it's kind of like a game, and I can just really play it the way I like to. And I think that's a how do you say it? Preface to where I'm in right now, living in a different country, doing stuff, going out there, doing stuff. Like, talking to somebody on YouTube at all was something like I never imagined. Even a year ago, I was like, no, that's not for me. I like when Bls038 does it. I like when Brandon does it. I like when other people do it. Nah. And then you do it, and actually it's like, this is super fun. I want to do more of this. And so kind of gaming the system, I'm not sure what your opinion about it. I really like the thought experiment of, what if we're living in a simulation? What if it's a kind of SimCity, and somebody can click new and it spins up a whole new universe with everything about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting thought experiment. Like, I've thought a lot about it. At the same time, whether we're in a simulation, or there's a God, or there's a nothing, it's a really important question, but at the same time, it's also a really insignificant question. Like, what matters is what's in front of you and what's tangible. And what's tangible is family, you know, and love is tangible. So at the end of the day, in a cosmic existence where you don't matter, the only in your world you do matter, and what matters is what you do with it and what you surround yourself with. So family ends up being really, and by family I'm meaning friends, because a lot of people don't have kids, but they do surround themselves with family. And so I'm meaning the people you love, so
your kin, literally the people around you.
Yeah.
No, totally agree. I got married. Also, something I wouldn't thought would happen. I got a video of myself saying, "I'm never gonna get married. Like I'm B-man. I'm 34 years old and I know it all." Like, it's so embarrassing if I look back to it, right? But this was me. And yesterday, actually, I thought about this because my wife knows, and I kind of jokingly put it like, what gives? We're in a simulation anyway. And she was like, but I don't want this to be a simulation, and I want this to be real. And she's a very romantic person. And I was like, the beauty of this simulation, at least in my version, is we'll never know. So that's good.
Yeah.
So we'll never find out if or not if.
Yeah.
For me, it is. And what's for me is the guy that clicks create and spins up a new world might be your god, and it might be somebody else's devil. And it's nice to have some form of
framework to process it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I suppose.
Awesome.
Yeah, the difficulty, if we're going to get into philosophy, the difficulty about any system, whether it's the simulation or theology or atheism or anything in between, or any variation of those, is it's difficult to prove that something isn't. Right? Like I can say there's a giant spaghetti monster in the sky that loves us and we're his children, and no one can prove that's not real.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's very difficult to prove that we're in a simulation, or that there's a God, or which God is the God, or there's no God. It's all very, very difficult, to be honest. And so I feel like I wasted a lot of my life caring about something that's not knowable. And there's some freedom in saying, I can't actually know that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with not knowing. I'm okay. And I'm going to live my life according to my inability to know that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Beautiful.
So, yeah.
So, Aaron, you aim to be 80 years old at some point. What are any future goals you might have? Is there anything that you thought of or want to achieve that you haven't already? Any specifics? Or it's just going to be continue learning and growing?
I think if I could pick, I'd like to author some books. My twin brother and I, when we get together, we have a lot of really good creative moments, and so we'd like to author. I'd like to be an author one day, probably either a fantasy or a sci-fi. I don't think I'd ever do nonfiction, but yeah. Well, I'd like to author. I'd love to work in real estate. Let me tell you why, though. Development, man, so many smart people in development, software development, sorry. But more dumb people have made money in real estate than anything else in the history of Earth. And so
Sure.
I feel like real estate is a thing that people who have plans and like to be organized can see. So my twin brother and I, that's where our two worlds collide, is our interest in real estate. And so I'd like to.
What is your twin brother's profession? What does he do?
He appraises real estate and he sells real estate. And
right.
So right. We both work on real estate together. So that's a side of me that most of the Angular community doesn't realize exists. Is I do some real estate stuff as well. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Smart investment. They've told me always. I owned a house and I sold it with a loss when I smelled the freedom. It was like in the lower part of the dip, and I happily took the loss. I'm still not sad about it, but
could I share a quick message while I'm on your show?
Yeah, totally.
I feel like we're coming to the end, so I'd like to share something.
I was actually asking for any plugs or anything you want to say, so take your time. Yeah. Stage yours.
Yeah, so this last week, my dad died.
Oh man, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah, he took a nap on his couch and he didn't wake up. He was at the end of a 2-year battle with cancer, and it was hard. It was a hard fight, and he went really, really peacefully. So, you know, there's an aspect of that to be thankful for.
Totally.
He and I, we had a hard time. We weren't best friends. I know a lot of us, to different degrees, we have a different kind of friendship with our parents. He and I had a hard time, but he left a really good teaching that I wanted to share with everyone. He created one of the big things that he did in life is he created a character, a stage person. He created an actor. He wrote a book. He wrote a play all around this character, and this character changed Utah. She helped change Utah. Her name was Sister Dottie, and Sister Dottie was a mom with a gay son. She was a mom who was Mormon, and she lived in a really hard part of Utah to have a gay son. And this is a story about my dad. He was born in a really hard part of Utah to be gay. He knew very early that he was gay, and his mom, she protected him a little bit. And after my dad passed away, one of my friends this week reached out to me and said, "Hey, I had no idea that Sister Dottie was your dad. I've been listening to Sister Dottie on the radio for years, and I had no idea that was your dad." And he said, "I want to tell you, Sister Dottie taught me about being more accepting to people who aren't like me and loving people who aren't like me. And Sister Dottie taught me to look at the LGBTQ plus community and say, hey, these people are my friends. These people are my family." We're not always raised to know that. Not all of us were taught to accept gay people or to accept people who aren't like us. I'm not sure I was. And Sister Dottie, she taught that. That was her thing. That was the reason Sister Dottie was created. So my dad passed away, but Sister Dottie's still here. And so I just wanted to invite everyone, hey, this world's really hard to live in. And we need to be accepting of people around us. So that's all I'd like to say is just let's be better to each other.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Aaron. Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing this very, very personal and recent event.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's giving me goosebumps hearing it.
Good.
And yeah, I'm sure other people as well. It's an important message, and
yeah,
specifically, if I can imagine, if you're raised in an area where this is not the norm, it's even harder to fight and to express your voice. And,
yeah, it's really not normal here in Utah. It's getting more normal, but a lot of people have had to hurt to make a little bit of progress, and that's really not fair. So we need to focus together, because those of us who don't hurt, if we don't speak up, we're enabling the hurt to keep happening. So we all need to get on board with fixing the things that are wrong, because just because we don't hurt doesn't mean there's not a lot of people hurting. And then that's what we need to focus on fixing, is the indifference to, well, I'm not hurt. The apathy. I don't hurt, so I don't care, but we need to care.
Me reading my first code of conduct, like, BS. Doesn't apply to me. That's exactly the problem. Doesn't apply to me. That I don't see this, it doesn't apply to me. And actually, this was also a chain of effects, what actually led to Code Your Future, and actually having an open eye for people that didn't have the opportunities that I had. It's a touchy growing up with food. Yeah, there's people telling you they feel sorry. I feel sorry. I'm yeah, I actually feel kind of honored that you did come onto my show in these circumstances. In general, it's been a super nice hour talking to you.
Yeah, it's been real good.
We met earlier, like 2020. We met briefly in Atlanta for NG-Alt. You did
Yep.
the Scully plug with the tunes. You
Yep.
had to go back to another, I think another city. I think back home fairly soon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really hope to be in Utah, Salt Lake City in 2022, May.
I
I
hope
think
so too.
May, April.
Hopefully March.
There you
Hopefully
go.
in March. We're talking to the hotel this week, so hopefully it's March, middle of March. April's hard because so much of the world celebrates Easter or Passover or something significant in April, and
Yep.
so April's hard. So we're hoping to go March. So yeah,
there you go. Yeah, will be an honor to be there and a pleasure to meet you again. And
Thanks,
hopefully
man.
some more time. Was
Yeah,
a great.
appreciate it.
Thanks. It was a great show. Thanks a lot for having you. We had a lot of people watching constantly. Often with code, people drop off when I have to type code and my fat fingers can't do it. And like that, look at me, I'm failing. But yeah, super interesting. Definitely motivates me to do more of these kind of things. Not everything has to be technical. We can also talk about life and how to walk through it.
Yeah, it's good to break out of Angular once in a while, right?
Yeah, totally agree.
At the end of the day, the humanity is what matters, and so that's what I love about the Angular community is the humanity. It's Bill Odom says this. Before we end, I'll just say this. Bill Odom says, "This thing." Sorry, I cut out again.
Yeah, it cut out again. But he said,
the second best thing about Angular is Angular.
Yeah.
And the first best thing about Angular is the community. And so, yeah, it really is about the humanity of all this and how we relate and how we care about each other. So I totally agree.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Thanks for everything you do. And see you soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.